Joining us to talk about that is Ed Kee. He's vice president of the economic consulting firm NERA. He specializes in nuclear power. And Mike Anness, he's manager of advanced reactors at Westinghouse. Westinghouse, by the way, supplies more nuclear reactors worldwide than any other company. Ed, I want to kick it off with you. You've said you're not betting your 401k that small nuclear reactors will be the wave of the future. What are the obstacles that these designs face? Because there's some big name investors out there thinking that they make sense.
Yeah, look, I think some of these things are really great concepts. They take a long time and cost a lot of money to get to market, talking decades. That kind of investment really isn't for investors like me. That's why I said it wasn't for my 401k. But they're really interesting and they have some great potential, but they're really long term and they're really expensive. That's the problem.
Mike, let me ask you, you guys over at Westinghouse, I mean, you are the #1 supplier of nuclear reactors around the globe. Mini nuclear power plants, is that something you guys are thinking about? Is this going to be something that eventually you might offer at Westinghouse?
Well, yes, and in fact, Carol, and thank you for having me today. Small reactors are the future. Our success today in nuclear energy will drive us towards successes in the future, where we envision a world 10 years from now where small reactors are here in the U.S. They're also in international markets operating, providing clean, safe energy across the globe.
I mean, how big a market, Mike, do you think it might be? Are you guys putting a dollar yet on this?
I wouldn't be willing to put a dollar value on the market size, but really what it is for small reactors is about reaching new customers. So utilities across the planet that can't afford a large pressurized water reactors that we offer today may be able to obtain a reactor that's more on the 200 megawatt size of the $1 billion investment size.
Guys, let me ask you about safety here, because obviously coming off of what happened in Japan, I think everybody's re-examining nuclear power at this point. Ed, from your perspective, is it going to get tougher and tougher for plants to be built around the globe? Or is that really just a U.S. concern? Or talk to me about the safety issue and how that might be holding back the growth of nuclear power at this point.
Well, safety is a huge concern, and some countries have decided nuclear power just isn't for them. Other countries, and I worked for one earlier this year, is thinking that maybe some of the new reactor designs are a way, because they're intrinsically safer. Some of the things we heard about these designs suggest that they don't have the same issues as light water reactors. That might be a way to solve that problem. The big problem, though, is cost. And the economies of scale that have driven us to build huge nuclear power plants and huge power plants of any kind, you're giving those up in a smaller reactor, and so you've got to do something differently, whether it's fewer components, new design, mass production to make up for that. We haven't seen these things come to market yet. Until we do, until the cost is competitive, it's really hard to make a bet on them.
Hey, I wonder about the costs. We talk about this in the office a lot because the government always has to give loan guarantees, and that doesn't make sense to sort of free market thinking capitalists, right? Why, Ed, do we have to give loan guarantees if it's a viable business, if it's going to make money over the long term? Why don't they just get investors like any other company would?
Well, the loan guarantees for nuclear power aren't for these kinds of small and innovative reactors. They're for the first of the new generation of large ones. For the big reactors.
Why, you know, the Obama administration gave $8.3 billion of loan guarantees for just 2 plants in Georgia this year. So that's huge.
Right. And the reason for those loan guarantees and the whole premise was that the market, the business of large reactors has been pretty much stopped for several decades in this country. The first of a kind units, whether they're big ones or small ones, are always a lot harder, a lot more difficult. There are a lot of hurdles to get over that won't face the later units. The loan guarantees are one way to help the first of those units get built, prove that the NRC licensing process works, prove they can be built and operated, and then after that, we shouldn't need them.
Ed, let's talk about investors' perspective. I mean, where do investors fit into this nuclear power plant discussion? Will the cost of building newer, safer plants reduce profitability for investors? And Mike, I'd love for you to take that. I mean, this is something you guys are worried about at Westinghouse.
Well, Carol, thank you. Yes, this is something that we think about a lot. We are currently investing in small reactor of our own. and that reactor is about 200 megawatts. What we envision for that is somewhere along the 10-year timeline, somewhere around 2020, bringing that to market and have that operating. It is a significant investment for us, but we believe it's meaningful because of the benefits of nuclear energy as a fuel source,
right,
and because it's not a big gamble.
But Mike, coming off of what happened in Japan, and there's again increased scrutiny, if you will, on nuclear power around the globe. I mean, are you guys concerned about the cost of building, newer plants, safer plants, and that's going to hurt your margins going forward?
Well, no. The fundamentals of nuclear have not changed. It is a sound energy source, and it will continue to be. The issue at Fukushima was about emergency diesel generators, and they were inoperable. Our current technology, the AP1000, and our next technology, the small reactor, doesn't require diesel generators to maintain the safety of the plant. Therefore, the AP1000 has 3 days of safe conditions following an event that you just didn't have at Fukushima.
Hey, Ed, let me ask you, Mike could probably convince us of the safety of today's reactors, but a lot of the ones that are up and running have been up and running since before Carol and I were even born. And I'm sure most people would like to see those replaced, costs be damned, right? I mean, do you think they're going to have to start replacing some of the older ones with newer, safer designs?
Look, I don't think that's the big issue. The Fukushima issues were very specific, as Mike said, the diesel generators, location near the water line, very large earthquake and tsunami. We've been through checks at all of our plants in this country. They're okay. Most of the modern designs are hardened enough that this isn't going to be an issue.
It's the black swan, that we, especially those of us who report on financial markets, now really believe in and are afraid of.
I understand, but you have to understand that the nuclear community was thinking about black swans in terms of design basis accidents since the 40s. So they've been through a lot of these. Well, the ones in Japan weren't nuclear accidents. They were natural disasters and diesel generator problems. And I guess we need now to lump those in with the rest of the plant, and we have in this country.
Hey, Mike, just got about 20 seconds left here. I mean, you guys, when you look around the globe, I mean, where do you see the most prospects when it comes to nuclear power? Where is Westinghouse focusing its efforts at this point? Is it the emerging economies? Give us an idea, just quickly.
Well, yeah, I mean, the United States in the southeast, in Georgia, those are AP1000 units. In South Carolina, we'll be bringing on AP1000s, but in China as well. As we look forward for the small reactor, with increasing regulations, you think about the thousands of megawatts of at-risk coal in the Midwest, and we'll be targeting our SMR, deployment in that region.
All right, we got to run, guys. Thank you so much. Our thanks to Ed Kee and Mike Anness for talking to us about the outlook for nuclear energy on Street Smart.